International Conference on Islamic Studies 2021. To ensure the success of the event, participants are required to follow rules as listed below. 1. The teleconference media used is Zoom meeting. 2. Rooms are open 20 minutes before.
Mohon Pak Ayi menyalakan mikronya, Pak. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Thank you everyone for coming to this session. I am Siti Mukliha from UIN Antasari Banjarmasin. I am the chair of this session today. In this session, we have 5 panelists. The first one is me. I'm going to present my paper about good governance and unilateralism. However, we have a huge topic for this presentation. It is researching Islam for public policy, modernizing Islamic through tradition, through religion, and public policy intersectionality. The second panelist will be Vivi Adriani from UN Antasari, from UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, sorry. And then Azhar Shah Ibrahim from UIN Araniri Aceh, Nina Nurmila from UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, and the last presenter will be Ai Yunus Susyana from UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung. However, the panelists will switch their position. So the first opportunity I will give to Professor Nina Nurmila from UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung. Her title about today's presentation is the need for affirmative policy to support women's leadership in state Islamic higher educational institutions. Ibu Nina Nurmila, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin sayyidil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come first. Let me open my PowerPoint and share screen first. And thank you very much for the flexibility of giving opportunity to me, because I have to go. Okay, mentioned by our chair, Dr. Mufli, that the title of my presentation is the need for affirmative policy to support women's leadership in state Islamic higher education. Can you see my screen and listen to my voice?
It's starting, but not, yeah, it's showing. It's showing good.
Okay, okay. Okay. Okay, so as an introduction, I would like to let you know that the Ministry of Religious Affairs, or MORA, has a gender-neutral policy on the selection of rector or chairperson of the State Islamic Higher Education, or what we call PTKIN, ya, Perguruan Tinggi Keagamaan Islam Negeri, and the policy name is PMA 68 2015. I will call PMA because it is Indonesian language, Peraturan Menteri Agama. And this policy is gender neutral, which means that this policy is open for both men and women who meet the requirements stated in the policy. Therefore, the policy is called meritocratic. Yeah. And it seems that meritocracy is just, but if we look at more deeply the different nature and situation between men and women, meritocracy or treating men and women equally doesn't guarantee any justice. Yeah, and here is the content of PMA. Yeah, Article 3 is about requirements to be a rector or the chairperson, of the PTKI. Yeah, there are like civil servant believing in one God and below 60, and then I highlight the requirements number 4 about having managerial experience in higher education institution, with the lowest position of being head of department for at least 2 years, And other than that is the administrative requirements that I think everybody can fulfill. So I just ignore that, and go on to the next slide, which is the specific requirements to be a rector. And the earliest slide is about the general requirement to be a rector. The specific requirement is that the candidate for the rector should have a doctoral degree, and for the rector of the university, the person should be a professor, And for the other than university, it is minimum lektor kepala, or associate professor. Then we can look at the context, as I mentioned before, that giving the same treatment to different gender can result in discrimination, because Indonesia is a patriarchal society. In a patriarchal society, the position of men is being regarded as superior to women, and therefore leadership position might be given to men. It is different now, it is changing. But like when I was undergraduate student at IAIN Bandung, all rector, dean, head of departments, lectures, mainly men, And in the traditional patriarchal gender construction, usually women give responsibility of doing housework at home, in the kitchen, other than or even though the woman have academic career. As a result, women have double. It means that she needs to work inside the house and also outside the house, and multiple burdens mean that the women are expected to do housework, doing like ironing, cleaning the house, cooking, and then taking care of the children, serving the husband, and then after that, when she go out to work, then she works outside the house. So that's multiple burden of women, which is one of the indicators of gender inequality. And this gender inequality can be seen clearly in this and the following pictures, in which that if we treat men and women equally, it will not be just, because see, the man has no barrier at all, while the women, there are so many barriers in undertaking public roles. She is expected to like doing housework, cleaning, cooking, etc. So this shows the need for affirmative policy to support women leadership, because in reality, like in PTKIN, we only have 12% of women's leadership in PTKIN. I emphasize again that giving the same policy or rule of competition to different group because men and women are constructed differently, it can be unfair. Therefore, we need affirmative action to support women's leadership. And what is affirmative action? Affirmative action is a practice or policy of favoring individuals belonging to groups known to have been discriminated against previously. And actually, we have already have affirmative action policy, like in the political that we encourage, we don't reach the target, the minimum target yet. This means men still want to dominate the political and public spheres, and and the women are not ready yet. We need to push more in the affirmative action, yeah, because theoretically we are part of SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, with Goal 5 is gender equality. And to achieve gender equality in the UN, there has been a program called Planet 50-50, which means that by 2030, we are expected to have that the leadership is 50% by men and 50% by women. And affirmative policy is needed to achieve this, yeah, by giving a temporary treatment. I need to highlight temporary treatment, because when women or the number of leadership has reached 50-50 treatment to both men and women, yeah, we don't need any more affirmative policy when the target has already reached, yeah. So this picture also showed the need for affirmative action for different groups. Like here we can see this is the man standing. It is representation of patriarchal men, which is also supported even though this person has already hiked. See, the equal treatment to different people can be unjust. What is just is that different treatment for different person. This is already high. We don't need to support anymore. So we need to have more support for this one, and more support for the youngest one. Yeah. So this is also the picture to show the need for affirmative policy. And here is the result of my research. I only did the research for 10 PTKIN, Yogyakarta, Malang, Jakarta, that I reached through my phone, because this research was conducted in 2020, as last year during the pandemic. So we could only communicate through WhatsApp. Yeah. And what you need to pay attention here, because in the process of rector selection, the first is that the candidate apply, yeah, with by putting all the requirements, yeah, and then the committee will verify whether the person fulfill all the requirement mentioned in the Article 3 of PMA. Yeah, what is interesting to note is that here is the candidate of prospective rector, the female one, and here is the male one. All men candidates have fulfilled all the requirements, but for the female candidates, not all the women can go through the process of full administrative process, and all of these female candidates cannot go through the next process of rector selection is because they cannot fulfill the requirements of minimum of serving as head of department for minimum 2 years. Yeah, as I have mentioned that in patriarchal campus, position is like naturally given directly to men, as if only men can lead. Yeah, so it's only like certain women, like maybe who has blood relationship, or maybe because she is extraordinary, that she can have the position in campus. Yeah, like the dean, the vice rector, or having organizational affiliation. Yeah. So here in Jakarta, we have 2 female candidates of director, but only one went through. Yeah, because another person couldn't fulfill the requirements of having serving at least 2 years of head of department also at UIN Bandung, and also at Bukit Tinggi, there are 2 women who were not fulfilling the requirements of that article, and also at UIN Palembang. Yeah, I know the person, but I will not mention here. But this shows that it is only happened to women. Yeah, it's only happened to women, not men, because all men it's easy to get the position in campus. Yeah, because like Julia Soraya Kusuma said, it is like males or boys club. Yeah. Based on the research finding, and based on my interview with the candidate of directors, I propose the revision of the PMA from natural or gender neutral or meritocratic policy on the left into the affirmative policy on the right. For example, Article 4, because Article 3.4 almost all the women who having managerial experience. Therefore, I propose that the woman should be exempted, yeah, from fulfilling this requirement. Point 10, it is the representation of female prospective rector in each campus is 50% from all proposed prospective rectors. And this proposal is based on planet of women. But as in the political sphere, it is even 30% is also difficult. Therefore, if the Ministry of Religious Affairs objected to the proposal of 50-50, then I think this revision from neutral to affirmative policy. For example, in the case of Bukit Tinggi, in the last selection of director, there are 10 male candidates and 1 female candidate. By having this revision, this means if only 1 female proposed to be or applied to be a rector, and the candidate should be 50-50, then the maximum number of male who can go through the next process is only 1. So 1 male, 1 female. If it is 30%, then it is 1 woman and then 2 men. The maximum is 2 men, not 10 men. So that's to encourage women participation in the rector selection. By having this policy, it is expected that in the next there has been encouragement for women to apply to be a director. I think I stop here. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to present first. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your presentation, Ibu Nina Nurmila. That was very enlightening. Yeah. The next presenter will be me. However, for the audience who wants to ask question, you can write down your question in the chat box, and then we will answer your question after all presentation finishes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. My name is Siti Mukliha. I'm going to present to new managerialism and good governance support gender justice in Islamic Indonesian higher education. This presentation, I think, is in line with what Ibu Nina Nurmila presented. Yeah, okay. The first one, I'm going to point out the problems. In Islamic Indonesian higher education system, especially Indonesia, they are currently undergoing a profound transformation. Today's universities are demanded to be able to provide services that the best to the community and to community needs oriented. With university governance, it's basically the university arrangement of organizational structure, business process, as well as program and activities in a plan to achieve goals by taking into account the principle of transparency, accountability, responsibility, and also independence. Similarly, in the era of global competition, academic institutions are increasingly being managed as efficient organizations called new managerialism. The term new managerialism is generally referring to the adoption by public sector organizations on organizational forms, technologies, management, practice, and values, which more commonly found in the private business sector. However, new managerialism now is practiced in the public sector, including Indonesian Islamic higher education. For implementation of good university governance and new managerialism side effect create problem for academic women, such as there is low representation of women academics in the management position, such as rector and even vice rector. So basically, they are very rare to be appointed as rector or vice rector. Another problem is low representation of academic ranks, namely associate professor and professor. We can say that female academics in certain university very low on occupying professor and associate professor. Therefore, my question is, how does the implementation of new managerialism in university affect women? How is good university governance implemented? Lastly, how do new managerialism and good university governance impact on women? Let's continue to literature review. There are three literature reviews that I'm using. The first one is from Elman 2014. According to Elman, new managerialism has created unfavorable climate for women academics. Consequently, the implementation and adoption of new managerialism in Indonesian Islamic higher education is a huge question for gender equity. He argues that new managerialism enhances the precarious position of women academic career, as some women in academics are still left behind. Feminist academics also have been silent regarding this condition. According to Kraken 2011, we can find change at the level of university government with good governance. Okay, I'm going to repeat. We can find change at the level of university government. University with good governance are more likely to protect women's rights than government. However, it is still with poor governance and negatively impacted on women's academic career. Of course, there are some development. However, the result of good university governance implementation have been disappointing. But new managerialism and good university governance have attempted to change organizational cultures that have been so far uneven. Both suggested that the organizational culture is rigid, unintegrated, goal-oriented, competitive entity in which management and leadership play an even more important role. The next one is methodology. I use qualitative approach. I use this approach because this qualitative approach studies about women's life or even human lives, or the general one. And I use feminist research methodology because this paper or this research is done by women, it is for women, and also it is to increase the women's life. I use mis-structured interview to interview 3 female academics. When I interview them, I implementing feminist ethics, namely ethics of care, ethics of empathy, ethics of trust, and mutual dialogue. I think it's close to the trustworthiness in qualitative approach. However, the feminist ethics is more detailed. There is the picture to explain my research. On the top is qualitative, underneath is feminist research methodology, followed by interview, and the core is feminist ethics. Result 1, female academic A shared that she experienced hard time under new managerialism with negative impact on her academic and personal life as well as overall academic productivity. Yeah, when I asked her what negative impacts in detail, she said that there is in fingerprint regulation implementation. There is also more administrative staff, and then more teaching, more rigid competition of grant. She experienced this kind of bad experience when humanitarianism is implemented. The result of Female Academic B confirmed that good governance that she understood is emphasizing accountability, transparency, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. It should be a means to social transformation. However, she feels that those values are not available to female academic life yet. For example, she said that when making decisions, university leaders were not transparent as well as not independent because they are influenced by other parties, and the decisions have adverse impact to women. Lastly, the interview with female academic C, she shared her mindful experience. Actually, working in university where stereotypic representation are common and often concrete, especially on issue of management and good university government principle implementation in academia, makes gender justice is harder to achieve. From the data that I took, I can make a discussion that humanitarianism principles are threat to gender equality, according to Karl Farhoff. And humanitarianism is a new discursive masculinity in universities. The link between gender equality and good governance is bidirectional, or it can be in two ways. This gender equality and good governance are part of virtuous cycle. I think you can see that in university, maybe everything is seem happy, maybe everything is normal and everything is okay. But according to Falcon and Dean, all are equal, but some are more equal than others is applied in university. So we have to look to the deeper problem in university. And then necessary condition linking gender equality and good governance is female political leadership. Again, this is in line with what Prof. Nurmila said. And without women in leadership position, university research reflect the status quo, male-dominated male policy. Okay, to conclude, this paper finds that humanitarianism and university government implementation hinder equality between male and female academics. I have a recommendation. This is a preliminary research on humanitarianism and good university governance. Further research on GUG and women is strongly recommended. Thank you very much. The next presenter will be Yufi Adriani from UIN Jakarta. Ibu Yufi, are you ready to present?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the title of Ibu Yufi is Happiness Profile During Coronavirus Pandemic, a Descriptive Analysis in Southeast Asia. Ibu Yufi, time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Siti Mufliha, for the opportunity. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's really an honor to be in here with my fellow best friend and also my best friend Ibu Siti Mufliha, Pak Ai, and also Pak Azza and Prof. Nina as well. So I hope today we can share all our multidisciplinary knowledge regarding many, because we come from a different studies. So I hope today we can collaborate and share about our research. So today, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yufi Adriani. I came from Faculty of Psychology, Syarif Hidayatullah State University of Jakarta. Currently, I will share about my research regarding happiness. Maybe my research, the topic is slightly different from the others, but I think it's still can be included in this panel theme because I also discuss about the government policy. Okay, I would like to share my screen first. Okay, because in Jakarta now is currently is a very heavy rain. I hope all of you could hear my voice clearly and see my presentation. Okay, my presentation about the happiness profile during coronavirus pandemic, a descriptive analysis in Asia. So this research took account in 3 countries, which is, I believe, represent Southeast Asia, Philippines, Indonesia, and also Malaysia. Why I choose these 3 countries? Because I believe we share the same cultures, the same experience, and many other things. And aside of that, we also still in a developmental country stage. So I think it's very important for us to know about the maybe the same thing or different things between these 3 countries regarding the pandemic situation. So I work this research with some of my colleagues in Philippines and also Malaysia, and then I write down the paper with my former students. Cahaya currently she is in she is doing his master's degree in Tarumanegara University. Okay. Next, why I took this topic actually because in the pandemic situation, most of people because the change a very critical change in many people life, in many aspects of people life. So people have to adapt with a very this changing situation. So most of people might be in a stress situation. So yeah, based on my experience as a psychologist as well, many people since the pandemic come to psychologists to have a consultation regarding their stress, their depression, and their problem when they have to change and adapt with the changing situation. So most of people tends to focus more on their stress and how to manage their stress, and then they forget how to gain and reach their happiness as well. Because if people focus more on their happiness, and then it more easily for them to manage their stress, and also to not focus more on their stress and more focus on the positive aspect, or in this research is a happiness level. So with its rapid spread, the novel coronavirus 2019, or also known as COVID-19 pandemic, as a high death rate and causes substantial fear, panic, psychosis, anxiety, trauma, and suicidal ideation around the globe. Now, this is according to World Health Organization in 2020. And due to being highly contagious disease, COVID-19 has enforced authorities to take a wide range to take a wide range of restrictive measures such as social distancing, avoided crowded public places, travel restrictions, imposing quarantine of all arrivals in the country. So I also focus more on the government policy regarding the restriction movement to people in these 3 countries and how this could affect their happiness and also their mental health. In the end, I also measure actually their mental health, but I will not focus on mental health in this presentation. I will focus more on the happiness. This is the Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia reported to have a criticism toward their governors' responses to COVID-19. So I believe every country, Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, have their own consideration regarding how to make a policy to overcome the spread of a COVID-19 virus. The Philippines, the participants said that the government has been criticized for inconsistent approach to managing COVID-19. I believe this is also happened in Indonesia as well. In Indonesia, confusion surrounding the restriction of people's movement loom large. The decentralized nature of government and health system in Indonesia complicates the country's effort to act swiftly in dealing with the spread of the virus. As we know, and maybe we still remember how the PPKM also make us like confused. There is many terms that government used to overcome the spread the spread of the virus, like PPKM, PSBB, and many other things that sometimes people make us like, people like us who is not in governments feels like, what is this? What is the purpose of this? And did the government already think about the impact of the PPKM, PSBB, or any other terms that government always use to make the people in Indonesia more confused about this? And in Malaysia, following initial relaxedness in responding to the outbreak, complicated by an abrupt change in government. And on March 16 in 2020, Malaysia closed its borders, banning all visitors into the country and barring residents from traveling overseas. I think from this research, Malaysia took a more extreme policy to overcome the spread of coronavirus, even though until this day, we still see that actually the people who suffer from the COVID-19 has a same amount between Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. And according to previous studies, people see a country or worldwide disaster unfold with negatively impact people's mental and physical health and social relationships. During these times, there is an increase in the number of negative emotions reported by people, such as feeling tense, agitated, sad, anxious, or lonely. Ultimately, the negative effects experienced in these domains decrease people's happiness level. So this is a theory. According to this theory, the worldwide disaster could make people feeling tense, agitated, sad, anxious, or lonely, which in turn will affect their people's happiness levels. And also another study, a study relied on the social media platform and used the DNH to investigate the determinants of happiness before and after COVID-19 in South Africa. They found that the lack of mobility, of access to alcohol, and school closures negatively affected happiness. Thus, they were linking regulation to control the spread of the virus happiness levels. This is the result from the South Africa. I think this is a slightly different from what happened in Indonesia. I think more parents and students really want to go to schools because they feel that study from home, it's really affect their happiness actually. And not only the students' happiness, but also the parents' happiness. But in South Africa, it doesn't matter whether students school from home or coming to school, because this is actually negatively affect their happiness. Yeah, because I think they found another source of happiness aside of going to school. The methodology of my research, I use the quantitative methodology, and the study aims to build a happiness profile of people in Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia. Additionally, the study also provides the level of satisfaction toward their government's responses to COVID-19 outbreak. So the methodology, the participant of my research is 514 participants, participate from 3 countries, Indonesia 47.7%, from Philippines 36.4%, and from Malaysia 16%. And I used the online survey through a Google form. The link was shared by a local researcher, this is my colleague from Malaysia and from Philippines. And the survey was conducted from May to June 2020. So this is the last year survey actually. Maybe this year, if we also want to see about the happiness level of people after the pandemic, maybe the result will be different. So the measures, I asked about the socio-demographic questions, about their age, their study. Most of them is college students. And 3 additional questions were also asked to find out participants' attitude toward COVID-19. And happiness level of participants was measured by mental health continuum scale. So this is the happiness, the result of the happiness profile in 3 countries. So this result shows, however, that Filipino, Malaysian, and Indonesian participants' happiness level do not differ significantly. So describe their level of happiness mostly in a medium state. So they feel not too happy or less happy, but yeah, I'm just okay. I'm happy in a medium state, in a medium way. So this is, I think this is also related to the culture of these people, because in people, if you ask something and then yeah, I'm okay, I'm good, I don't have any problem. So this is my also relate with the culture and the habituation of people in these 3 countries. And the next thing is the satisfaction toward government's response to COVID-19 outbreak. Malaysian participants mainly feel very satisfied toward their government's response to the COVID-19 outbreak. As the previous one, when I explained about the government policy in these 3 countries, government of Malaysia took a very extreme policy when they closed their border to all people in Malaysia to go out overseas, or the people from overseas to come into Malaysia. But however, this policy, according to Malaysian participants, make them like okay, very satisfied with that policy. So this is a good thing. So I'm looking forward for Indonesian government also to do this to overcome the COVID-19 virus spread. And while the majority of Philippines and Indonesia participants feel neutral about their government's responses. Okay, the conclusion, the last part of my research, the conclusion of my research, results from this study show that despite having varying regulation and policies that their governments made during the pandemic, there were no differences between their level of happiness. However, there were some limitation to this study. First, the samples were predominantly college students and also a poor proportion number of participants from each country. There is no balanced amount of participants from each country. I can get a lot from Indonesia, yeah, because I come from Indonesia. I also can have a lot from Philippines, but from Malaysia, I still have like, I only have like 50 people to fill the questionnaires, but I think it's still, we can still put the result on the research, but in the future we will try to add some more participants. The second one, the study was held in the earlier stage of pandemic, so the results might be different from the recent time. Since this study only gave a profile on happiness and satisfaction level, further study was needed to explore the causal relationships between level of restriction that was made by the government during pandemic and its citizen level of happiness. I think that's all from me. Thank you for the attention and the opportunity. I give back this Zoom to Ibu Siti Mufliha. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bu Yufi, for your presentation. we can measure ourselves. Are we happy now during pandemic? Okay, the next presenter will be Harsah Ibrahim. Bapak, are you ready? The title is Perceiving Fairness in Islamic Higher Education as a Component of Good Governance University. Oke, Pak sudah siap?
Oke.
Yeah. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Salatan wa salaman ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Of course, I'm also very happy to be here with long time no see friends. Pak Ayi, Bu Yufi, Bu Mufli, dan also very happy to know Bu Professor Nina. My title for today's presentation is Perceiving Fairness in Islamic Higher Education as a Component of Good University Governance, a study of remuneration system. I think this group is very diverse because we have very different, unique background. I'm from economic background. Bu Yufi psychology. I think Bu Mufli is and Bu Nina is also have another background. But we made it in one theme of this IG's presentation. So let me begin with introduction. Okay, the big theme is in this topic is also good governance. Actually, good governance is okay. Good university governance is a term actually derived from good governance. So the concept of governance itself is understood in many ways by different people. So its definition often depends on the goal to be pursued, the entities involved, and also the socio-political environment within which these goals are to be achieved. And the concept of good governance itself has been derived into many sub-concepts such as good government governance, triple G for measuring a country's performance, good corporate governance, GCG for measuring the performance of a business entity, and good university governance, as I mentioned before, for using at university level. So GUG is employed actually to help university management in measuring its performance in terms of reaching long-term goals. In general, GUG consists of 5 principles: transparency, accountability, responsibility, fairness, and independency. But our Ministry of Education and Culture expand the principle to become 8 items by adding quality assurance and relevancy, effectivity and efficiency, and non-profit principle. So from the above principle, this study intend to highlight the fairness issues. So because fairness is one of the essential components of good university governance. It measures the routine activities of universities, ranging from hiring employees to the implementation of a merit system, like incentive, disincentive, and so on. It's also related to sensitive issues concerning rewards, both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. We know that in management, intrinsic reward is an outcome that is part of the work itself, and extrinsic rewards usually more reflected in the form of financial rewards and non-financial rewards, such as wages, salaries, benefit, promotion, health, insurance, and others. And in Indonesia, the financial reward usually revert to the term remuneration, and it is regulated by government regulation. Usually we call Peraturan Pemerintah number 23, 2005, and that has been amended by PP number 74, 2012. And what is the problem with the remuneration system in higher education, especially Islamic higher education? According to regulation, remuneration is given based on the level of responsibility and demands of professionalism with proportionality, equality, propriety, and performance. But in practice, the implementation of remuneration as a public service body, or we call usually BLU, Badan Layanan Umum Entities, raise several issues. Specifically, the fairness issues, which is a perception in perceiving the grading and amount of remuneration. In higher education, these issues are more visible due to several grouping of employees, especially lecturers who are relatively more critical than employees in other organizations. And we know that in university, the beneficiaries of remuneration are divided into several groups, which is lecturer with managerial assignment, as we call dosen dengan tugas tambahan, DT, ordinary lecturer, dosen biasa, DS, then a staff with managerial position, pejabat struktural, ordinary staff, jabatan fungsional umum, and also functional staff, jabatan fungsional tertentu. The issue of fairness is evident usually in classifying grades and determining the nominal remuneration received by these individuals. So this condition led to dissatisfaction due to differences in perception of perceived fairness. You know, my fairness is different from other fairness. So this is depend on what side I look at the fairness. So in my initial observation and some unstructured interviews with several beneficiaries in various Islamic universities, it was found that the most of DS complain about the amount of remuneration they receive. Even when compared to GFU, it feels unfair in their perception. At the same time, they also complain about the fairness of workload by comparing with other data in similar position in a different work unit or different university. So this issue also have been found in previous studies, such as studies of Senjani in UIN Jogja, Prasetyo in Universitas Brawijaya, Prasetyo Yunarso in Telkom University, and also Suci in Surabaya State University, and many others previous studies. So the objective of this study is to analyze the perception of justice or fairness in implementing remuneration in several PTKN in Indonesia that has acquired BLU status. In specific, this research aims to find answers to perception of distributive justice and procedural justice of beneficiaries and also policymakers. We move to the method that used in this study. The population for the study consists of beneficiaries and policymakers from selected PTKN in Indonesia with BLU status. When the data was collected in 2019, there are 58 PTKN in Indonesia. 17 have acquired BLU status, and 11 have implemented remuneration. So from this population, sample were selected using a purposive sampling method with requirement willing to volunteer as a respondent, have or currently receiving remuneration benefits, have been involved as a team to formulate a remuneration system, and come from one of PTKN BLU, which have paid remuneration per 2019. So to collect the data, the study employ a questionnaire survey scale from 1 to 6, from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And the indicators that an item statement were adopted from Colquitt 2001, Copanzano, Bowen, and Gilliland 2007. And the analysis data using a quantitative method, using analysis percentage with rating category as shown in this table. So divided by 6, from strongly disagree to strongly agree, and fairness category is very unfair to very fair. And the result is we see the respondent first. Based on this table, we have 262 survey have been returned to us and then been validated. Of the number, 164 were male, accounted for 62.6%, and 98 were female, 37.4%. And the respondents were dominated by age group of 41 to 50 years old, which is 42.1%. DT group 40.8%, and the people with monthly income from 3 to 7 million, which is accounted for 69.6%, and also have PhD and master's degree is very dominant, and also have worked for quite some time, which is 5 to 15 years old, 15 years. And the detail is here in this table. And the result we can see in this table. From this table, we see that the fairness in distributive remuneration through 7 statements. So of all statements, only one item fall into the quite fair category. The score is 60.11, and while other 6 fall into fair category. So This result indicate that respondent perceive the distributive justice of remuneration for the item measure has provided a sense of fairness, with average score is 69.87. But when we analyze the item a bit closely, we see that, as I mentioned before, that the statement number 7 received the lowest result. So from this result, we can suggest that it is necessary to continuously disseminate information from the parties so that academic community at PTKN understand its main task and functions, and also recognize their rights and obligation as not to give too high expectation of remuneration when installed in a particular position. So sometimes when installed in one position, they think that the remuneration they receive will be very high, but when comparing to job they have to do, sometimes this is beyond their expectation, sometimes it is under their expectation. Another result is procedural fairness. And this table reveal a quite contrary result of previous table. We can see here of the 8 statement in the measurement of perception of procedural fairness of remuneration, only 3 items fall into fair category, while the other 5 falls into the quite fair category. So if we see closely, of the 3 items that fall into fair category, 2 of them found a relatively low perception score if we compare with this score. And this description of perception provide us a conclusion that there is still many things that the management of PTKN need to be improved for procedural justice, such as ensuring the involvement of a representative in each position in the discussion of remuneration procedure. Also, communication channel must still be improved so that employees can easily question the result that arise from remuneration procedure. In addition, consistency in applying rules is also one thing that should be underlined to be improved in the future. So then we move to the next slide, the conclusion slide. So when we compare these 2 elements, the stakeholders of PTKN perceive that remuneration justice or fairness categorized as fair, with an average score of 67.79. Ring score is this one. So it's a lower score. So what is the implication of this result? It has something that managerial of PTKN that have to focus on these issues. First, we record that remuneration justice should be based on workload and job risk. Second, it is necessary to increase transparency and accountability so that everyone know that the rational amount of remuneration received. For example, some universities currently provide Android application that can be viewed by each individual. including the amount of remuneration they receive. And also the third one is in some PTKIN, remuneration calculation is still not entirely correct due to differences in income for some staff outside the remuneration scheme. And the last one is the scheme for additional remuneration. When performance increase should also be considered. In some universities, at PTKIN, the point to achieve remuneration is sometimes it's very easy to receive, and when they pass the point and the work that has been done is not calculated anymore. So this is some of work that management of PTKIN, especially the one that have implemented remuneration system, have to work on. So I think this is it for my presentation. Thank you for everything. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for your presentation, Bapak Azhar. Certainly talking about remuneration is a huge topic. Yeah, okay. I just want to encourage participants to write down their question if they have in the chat box, or they can raise your hand in the end of the presentation. Thank you. The last presenter is Bapak Ayu Yunus Rusiana from UN Sunan Gunung Jati, Bandung. His presentation is about embodying Wasatiyah Islam, the policy of UIN Bandung in disseminating religious moderation among academics and general public. Bapak Ayi, time is yours.
Oke, thank you Ibu Siti Muflihah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Alhamdulillah, today we attend this great event, annual international conference on Islamic studies, and I'm very happy to be here to give a presentation, maybe sharing about our preliminary research, maybe because it is still going on, and I will share screen my PowerPoint because I need power and also point to present my my paper or my presentation, yeah. And also I will say hi to my great friends, Ibu Muflihah, Ibu Yufi, Pak Azhar, and also Prof. Nina. They are very great lecturer from various universities in Indonesia. Okay, and I will start my presentation with this data based on survey of the National Counterterrorism Agency, BNPT. So in 2016, BNPT found that symptoms of radicalism had begun to spread among students. We can see that 26.7% agree with jihad using violence. Although this is less than who said don't agree, but 26.7% is very scary, yeah, because maybe that they will act, or maybe they will involve if there is they find a community who commitment with the jihad. And in the survey also, it was found that 26.7 and we can see that 21 until 30 ages, most of them are become the target of this survey. And in fact, we can found in Indonesia that various actors of terror in Indonesia often use the young generation as the brides or the executors of violent extremism. And sometimes the reasoning is very simple, like Nurhuda Ismail make a movie. The title is Jihad Selfie. This movie uh, talk about how the young generation can involve with terrorist networking with a simple reason, yeah. Because there is a student in Turkey from Indonesia who will join with ISIS based on the picture of his friend. He saw the picture in the Facebook with a big gun, AK-47, and he said that, oh, this is very cool. And he intend or he interested to join with him. And also BIN, Badan Intelijen Negara, also said that the young generation is the main target in recruiting and spreading the ideology of terrorism. And BNPT also in 2021 said that 85% of the millennial generation are vulnerable to being exposed to radicalism. Based on that facta and also the case of terror action, the effectiveness of the radicalization program involving BNPT, Densus 88, Densus 88, BIN, and the Ministry of Social Affairs, and it is commonly followed by other institutions, is questioned by some observers and researchers, because you know that the budget or they use some very huge money to do this program. Actually, the government make a religious moderation program as a new program in Indonesia, and has been written as an important program in National Midterm Development Plan, Rencana Pembangunan Jangka Menengah Nasional, ya, RPJMN 2020 and 2020 and 2024. And also Pak Jokowi affirmed that religious moderation is in line with the spirit of Pancasila in the midst of a wave of extremism. And the Ministry of Religion also in 2019 published and launched the book Moderasi Beragama that can be used as a reference for anyone who will study or make a religious moderation program. And in UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, we have a religious moderation house, Rumah Moderasi Beragama, and it was inaugurated by Fakhrul Razi, the former Minister of Religion, in November 2019. It is the great initiative for, according to me, that the Islamic University can embody wasatiyah values among Islamic institutions. There are some programs they developed or executed by Rumah Moderasi Beragama. Yeah. It is become a center for religious moderation that has a duty to educate students, lecturers, preachers, religious teachers, religious counselors, etc. And for all new students in UIN Sunan Gunung Jati Bandung, these wasatiyah values, religious moderation values, we are usually introduced by the leaders of UIN in the event introduction of academic culture. We call it pengenalan budaya akademik or PBAK. And in this program, in this activity, all the students will declare that they have a commitment to implement those values in daily life. And also, Wasatiyah values will be trained for the candidate of civil servants because they have to attend a religious moderation workshop before they are officially accepted as civil servant in UN. Yeah, that's some program implemented by Rumah Moderasi Beragama. And after I observe that program, I have a recommendation. First, Rumah Moderasi Beragama must evaluate their programs and its effectiveness in internalizing the Wasatiyah values. They must also develop or improve the content and methods that suitable with the characteristic of young generation. Rumah Moderasi Beragama also must collaborate with some non-government organization such as Peace Generation, Wahid Institute, Ma'arif Institute, PPIM, that have more experiences in campaigning Wasatiyah Islam for young generation, or religious teachers and counselors. And also, I suggest that religious moderation must become one of the main topic of research and service program, and it must be inserted into the curriculum. So, educating religious moderation values is not easy because it's not about the knowledge, but about the character, about the psychomotor maybe. So the method or the content, how to embody Wasatiyah values must be improved based on the characteristic of the young generation. I think it is my presentation, and I will give this floor to Ibu Muflihah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Ayi, for your presentation. Yeah, it's a very good topic for moderation. Yeah. Okay. All presenters have presented their paper, and it's time for question and answers. If there are some questions, you might raise your hand from the audience.
Mungkin jika tidak ada pertanyaan, I'm talking in Indonesian language. If there is no question, maybe we can proceed to the final closing statement, Ibu Mufli, from each presenter.
Yes, okay, yeah.
But maybe I am the last.
Yeah, you want to go first, Bu Ismina? Yeah.
I will be the last.
You'll be the last. Okay, you'll be the last. Thank you for your suggestion, Budina. There is no question from the audience, so we just can go to the closing statement. So it seems that I'm going to be the first to be the one that sends the closing statement. Okay. Some studies indicate that there is the link between the quality of governance and female achievement. And the link is very strong. The university with high quality of governance usually have more women with high achievement and have more power. So women in the universities have more power. Therefore, we need to have women leadership in the university. That's all from me. Thank you. From Ibu Yufi, are you ready to share your closing statement?
Okay, thank you. I think my closing statement will be a few thank you for some people, because from my research, I already do the conclusion part. So maybe if you want to know the conclusion of my research, and then you can read and go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, I would like to say thank you for the ICIS committee who has been working hard for to select and put us together in this session, and also to my faculty and also participants for my study, and also my fellow research in Malaysia and Philippines. Special thanks to you too, Ibu Siti Mufliha, who has put a lot of effort to encourage us to submit our paper on time. And thank you so much for that. So this session finally happened and we can gather together in this great conference. And also to Pak Azhar and also Pak Ai, great to see you here and happy. I'm happy too to see you in a very good condition, and also Prof. Nina. And last but not least, thank you for all participants in this Zoom meeting. I hope the result of our research, especially my research about happiness, being many useful informations, many insight to do further study or research, and give us a better life in the future. Thank you so much. That's all for me.
Thank you very much, Ibu Yufi, for your closing statement. Now we come to Bapak Azhar Ibrahim.
Okay, thank you for giving this opportunity. Of course, the same thank you, just like Bu Yufi said. But I would like to conclude from my research that based on the assessment result on procedural and distributive justice statement that I have shown before in the table, we can see that the stakeholders' perspective on the remuneration justice or fairness in PTKN is still categorized as fair. But the score is fair in the lower category. So, so those who have been, installed in managerial position like Bu Yufi, Pak Ai, Bu Mufli, still have to work very hard to make this justice to be more justice. I think that's it. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Pak Azhar. And now we come to the last closing statement from Bapak Ai. Oh, no, we still have Ibu Nina, yeah. Bapak Ai, would you like to share your closing statement, please?
Okay, thank you. I have to comment. I have one comment about why there is no question. Maybe because some participants assume that the question must be in English, yeah. But it's okay. So my closing statement is disseminating religious moderation values is very important and also urgent, because the fact of extremism and radicalism opinion among some people, but religious moderation house have to develop or to improve the content or method, so their program will gain the or will reach the goals effectively, because the problem is not only in the knowledge but also in the psychomotoric or in the character. Yeah. I think it is my closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Ai. Now we come to the closing. I'm going to, oh, sorry, I still have Bu Nina. Oh, sorry. Bu Nina, are you ready to have your closing statement? Sorry.
Final closing statement.
Yes,
so, my presentation is about the need for affirmative policy in order to support women leadership. As I have mentioned before, that many women, even though they have many potential to be leader, but because of the patriarchal culture, they need support by having an affirmative action. Even though I am now having an access to be the Dean of the Faculty of Education at the International Islamic University, I still want that this paper can affect the policy in the Ministry of Religious Affairs by having that this policy is being revised for the sake of other women who cannot access to the position or managerial position. And I would like to thank the committee and also our beloved chair, Ibu Dr. Siti Mufliha, and my other fellow presenters like Dr. Ari Yunus, who is in the same campus with me at UIN Bandung, and salam kenal also Ibu Yufi and Pak Ibrahim Shah. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Ibu Nina, for your closing statement. Yeah, I'm going to make a summary for this presentation today. This selected panel is looking forward to create a fruitful dialogue among the 5 Indonesian streams of research in the area of public policies in Islamic Indonesian higher education and Indonesia in general. Those 5 are first, researching Islam for public policy. We have 5 presentations respectively. For instance, Mufliha quest on how humanitarianism and good governance supports gender justice in Islamic Indonesian higher education. Similarly, in the state Islamic higher education, Nina Nurmila, who is a professor in Islam and gender, discussed her research that urgently we need for affirmative policy to support women's leadership. Yeah, still in higher education, we had Ibrahim, President of University Governance by Applying Fairness, while Luciana writes about Islamic Indonesian higher education policies to disseminate religious moderation. Lastly, Ibu Adriani, who is a psychologist, portray the Muslim happiness profile in coronavirus pandemic in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. As the chair of this today's presentation, I would like to say thank you to ICIS committee and also Ibu Nilam Rahmawati, who have been guiding us to this today's presentation. I would like to say thank you to all presenters, to all audience. Thank you for joining us today. I hope I can see you in the next year, in the next ICIS conference. Finally, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goodbye, selamat siang.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Bu Yufi.
Kita masih harus foto-foto Pak. Bapak.
Oh ya, terima kasih juga Pak Azhar.
Foto.
Foto session. Panitia apakah sudah siap untuk foto?
Okay, already. Okay, give me best smile for closing picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, hold a moment. Wait, hold a moment. Okay, one more time. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Okay, thank you very much. Give applause for all panelists and Ibu Mufliha. Thank you very much. I'm so sorry if found some mistake from the committee. Thank you and salam sehat for all. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Boleh lihat
So much.
Yuk, makasih ya.
Ya,
Terima kasih.
Pak Azhar, Mai.
Ya, makasih
Bu
semua.
Yufi atas fleksibilitasnya
Sampai ketemu ICIS tahun depan ya, offline.
Amin, 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 amin.
Tahun depan. Okay,
Amin, amin. Ya, you're welcome.
Oh iya, see you Bu Mufli di Surabaya.